Hi guys, it's Louisa and it's awesome to talk to you guys today. Today's video is going to be all about the merchandise role of the Disney College program. So some general information about me before we begin. I did the Disney College program last year. I was a Fall Advantage CP 2019. I was there from June 3rd, 2019 to January 6th, 2020. I just finished my program at the beginning of this month and now I am back in my home state of Kansas. I've been back for about 2 weeks. So new state, new year, new me. But I was a merchandise cast member during my DCP. I worked in Disney Springs on the west side. So this video is going to be all about the merchandise role. So if you are thinking about applying for the Disney College program and trying to figure out what roles you're interested in or want to put interest in, then this is the video for you. I'm going to be talking all about merchandise, giving you the pros and the cons, according to my personal opinion, and hopefully it's helpful for you guys. I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you. Merchandise was not one of my top ranked roles when I put interest in it when I applied for the DCP. When I applied for the DCP, I put interest in so many different roles because I honestly thought a lot of them sounded really cool and I thought I would have fun doing them and really would learn a lot. I'm trying to think about what were kind of my top roles. My top roles, I want to say, were character attendant, character performer, but I wasn't able to attend an audition, so I was never considered for character performer, which makes sense. Attractions was a top one for me. Bippity Boppity Boutique was a high one for me as well. And then I had various interests in a bunch of different other ones as well. But merchandise was actually a medium interest for me. And the reason why it wasn't one of my top interests was because my job experience before the DCP, I had one job working in food service and then I had 2 jobs working in retail right before I started the DCP. So I kind of was like, I have retail experience already and that's something I've already been doing. So I really wanted to try something new. But I said, hey, like I do have experience in retail, so if I were to get the merchandise role for the DCP, it's something I feel like I could do well. So when I got the role, I was like, okay, cool. Like it wasn't my top choice of a role, but honestly, I really enjoyed the role and I really thought it was a great role for me. Some basic information about the merchandise role. For the Disney College program specifically, you do not get to pick where your location is. Casting and the recruiters will cast you where they see fit and will place you, so you don't actually get a say in where you are placed. You could be placed in a park, in a resort, Disney Springs like I was. You can be placed at a variety of places like ESPN Wide World of Sports, so it truly is a global role that's all over a Disney property, which is really cool. During your phone interview, definitely watch and see or listen because they may ask you, your interviewer may ask you if you're comfortable working in a location with food along with merchandise. I definitely remember that my interviewer asked me and honestly I said like, no, I don't have a problem with that. And the reason I bring this up is because a lot of people, when they think of merch, they don't think of working with food. They're like, oh, like that's quick service food and beverage. Like that's not going to apply to me. That may apply to you. You may get put in a place that deals with food. So if you have allergies or an allergic reaction or something of that nature, watch out for that question and bring that up to your interviewer because you could get placed in a place with food along with merchandise. So for me, I was placed in Candy Cauldron, which is a bakery, and it does involve food. I had no problems with it. I didn't have any allergies or anything like that. I'm just putting this in there because that is a possibility if you want to go into merchandise. So if you have any problems with that, let your interviewer know during your phone interview. I think the food question was the only question related to merch that I got during my phone interview. I think the rest of the questions I got were related to other roles and also were related to roommates and how I would interact with different roommates. But I think the food question was the only one I got involving merchandise. But again, different interviewers, different interviews, different things could happen. But there you go. Basically, the only other bit of general information about the merchandise role, besides you can get placed anywhere, is that you will be register trained for sure if you are a merchandise cast member. And that's about it. The rest really depends on your home location. For example, on the west side, I had to get food safety training because I worked in a bakery. So depending on your home location, you get different types of training. You may be floor stock trained, or you may be stock trained. You may be you may be cash apron trained, things like that. But not everyone will necessarily have those trainings and basic qualifications. So that's some basic information about the role, just to let you know. So now I'm gonna go into my pros and my cons. So the first pro is that when you think of merchandise, you think of kind of working in one store. But that's not necessarily the case. I know so many different locations at Walt Disney World Resort where when you're a cast member, you work in multiple stores or at multiple different carts or things like that. So what's nice about that is that you're having a little bit of spice in your schedule. You're not constantly working at the same place. And then this brings me to my second pro, is that if you are at a location that is one location, such as the Emporium or World of Disney, you have different kinds of shifts. So you could get a floor stock shift, you could get a sales shift, you could get a support shift. There are different types of shifts. So even if you're not necessarily in a location where you have multiple stores or different places you could be, you can get different shifts of merchandise, which is really nice, because when I worked in retail before Walt Disney World, we really didn't have anything like that. It was just like, you show up here, there you go. It was very general. But what's nice about Disney is that you get very specific shifts and you get different shifts, which I think is really, really cool. Going into pro number 3, merchandise is globally trained role. Everyone is register trained. So what's awesome about merchandise is that you can trade shifts with anyone throughout Walt Disney World property. So if you, for example, for me personally, my home location was Disney Springs, but I really wanted to work in Magic Kingdom. So I would trade shifts to work in Magic Kingdom. And that's what I did, and it was really cool. So if there's a place that you really want to work, you can try and trade shifts for it. You can also, for example, if you don't necessarily want to trade for different locations, you can also trade with your fellow cast members at your home location. For example, if you get a closing shift and you're like, man, I really don't like closing shifts, could I get like a mid or something? You could trade with your fellow cast members. And I think at other places that I've worked, I've only ever done a shift trade once, with a friend, like that was it. But the concept of shift trading at Disney has completely changed me. Oh man, I love shift trading. I think it's awesome. It's gonna be weird, at my future jobs not having that ability. I'm like, what do you mean I can't just trade shifts with Jimmy? What the heck? Another pro about being a merchandise cast member is that you do get to pin trade. Pin trading is so cool. It's a big part of Disney history, and it's just something that's gone from generation to generation. It's pretty cool, and it's nice to be able to interact with guests a lot. And that's another big pro for merchandise, is that it's a lot of guest interaction. This is not necessarily a pro, and this is not necessarily a con. This is just something I'm saying in between my two lists, because it really depends on your home location and it depends on your attitude and how you feel about it. And what I'm talking about is the number of hours you work. For me, I was scheduled on average between 32 and 36 hours at my home location. I know some people that, worked over 40 a majority of their program. I know people that, were only scheduled probably 30 a week for several weeks. It really depends on your home location. It depends on how busy Walt Disney World is, what season it is, things like that. But it also depends on your attitude about it, because some people, like me, I wanted more hours. The way I viewed the DCP was I had full-time availability. I was there to work. So I was happier when I worked more hours or got scheduled more hours. Some people get scheduled a lot of hours and they don't necessarily have a lot of time off, and so they would rather go explore Orlando or just, have a day to relax and things like that. So some people prefer to have fewer hours. So again, this one's not really a pro or a con. It really depends on how many hours you're getting and your attitude about it. What's nice is if you're not getting the hours that you would like or would like to get more, you can shift trade, as I said, which was helpful. I know the week that I worked the most, I worked 50 hours the week of Christmas, and I wasn't originally scheduled 50 hours, but I picked up a lot of overtime shifts, and because that's something that I really wanted to do, and I made that happen. I actually only have one con with the merchandise role, so that says a lot. One of my roommates was also merchandise, but we had this discussion one time and we disagreed. She disagreed with me on this, and that's completely okay. But for me, being a merchandise cast member, I felt being constantly surrounded by merchandise that I was just tempted to spend a lot more money, and I ended up buying a lot more merchandise than if I had not been in a merchandise role, if that makes any sense. I just felt like I ended up buying a lot more merchandise because I was constantly surrounded by it. The temptation was always there, if that makes any sense. And for me, that was kind of a con because I really wish I had saved more during my program. And I know my spending impulses, those are my problems, and like if I had greater control of myself, then there you go. But I do think if I had been in a different role and not constantly surrounded by merchandise, I don't necessarily think I would have spent as much on merchandise. Do you understand what I mean? If you don't, that's cool, and if you disagree, I totally get it. But for me personally, being constantly surrounded by merchandise, I felt like I just ended up spending a lot more on merchandise, even though I did know I did have a nice cast discount and things like that. I just ended up spending a lot more on merchandise because I just was surrounded by it all the time. So that's just how I see it. But as I said, that's really the only con of merchandise for me. I mean, every role has its challenges. Every role is going, to sometimes have guests that are unhappy. But that's all across Disney property, all across different roles and different cast members. So I honestly, as I said at the beginning of the video, merch was not my top choice role, but I ended up loving it. I loved the variety of it, and I ended up really liking it. So I would highly recommend the merchandise role. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them below in the comments, and I would be happy to respond and answer any questions that you guys may have. Best of luck to you if you are applying for the Disney College program, or if you're thinking about it for the future. I really enjoyed my time on the program and could not recommend it enough. Anyways, I hope that this video was super helpful. That's all that I have for you guys today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will be back with a brand new video soon. Bye-bye.